When you're working on returning to self-love, you're going to have to meet your inner orphans. Now, we've talked about the three tools: the imagination, higher self, the emotional body, and we've looked at self-love, that you're lovable, loving, and loved. Now we're going to start to explore your inner orphans. Now, your inner orphans are the parts of yourself that you've forgotten, or that you've shoved down, or you put in the closet to avoid. Your inner orphans are the parts of yourself that were wounded, usually in childhood and early adolescence, and you made certain decisions about yourself because of those wounds, of how you see yourself and how you see the world around you. These are key in healing what's keeping you from your sense of self-love. Now, your inner orphan can be many different ages. When I first met my inner orphan, it was a 5-year-old who crawled in my lap and just wanted to be loved and held and made to feel safe. And then I met my 7-year-old, and then my 9-year-old, and then my 12-year-old. Some were very angry, shouted at me, screamed, yelled, had a fit, hated me for having ignored them for so long. Other ones hid behind trees, not wanting to be seen, wanting to stay invisible. Each orphan behaves differently, just as if you had 3 different children, each child would behave differently. Your inner orphans are going to behave differently. But you need to meet them all, because they all hold gifts for you, as well as the wounds that need healing. Your inner orphans are vital in order to return to self-love. And you're actually going to fall in love with your inner orphans. You're going to cry with their pain, and you're going to wrap your arms around them and tell them how much they're loved and cared for, and that you're never going to forget them again. And eventually your inner orphans will be healed and brought back to the whole. So I think it's time to meet your inner orphans. So what I want you to do is go to your safe, loving space, call in your higher self, whether you see them or not, and just believe they're there, even if you don't see them. And I want you to walk down a path. Now this path is a bit bumpy, and I want you to walk down this path. And I want you to come to a cave. Now it's a different cave than your emotional body. But I want you to go into this cave. And again, I want you to notice the smells and the sounds. Now, when I first did this work, I went to the cave, and as I stepped to the cave entrance, I began to hear screams. Little kids screaming. And it just made me boo-hoo. Before I even went in and met them, I boo-hooed right there. But I want you to begin to understand that these are parts of yourselves who've been waiting to be found. So I went into the cave, and over in the corner of the cave was a little girl against the rock, crawled up into a ball, and she was filthy. She was dirty. Her hair was matted. She was uncared for, unloved. And I went over, and I tried to put my arms around her, and she wouldn't let me near her. So I sat down in front of her, as close as I could get, and I told her I was so sorry that she'd been left alone in this cave for so long. And I went back several different meditations until I could put my arms around this one. And then I put my arms around her and began to love her. This is how you're going to meet your orphans. Another orphan I met danced within the trees, and the minute I met her, she hid behind a tree. She did not want to be seen. So once again, I sat down and waited for her to come to me. Another one stood there yelling at me, angry at me, and I let her yell and be angry at me until she had spent all of her anger and her rage at me. You got to meet your orphan where they are and allow them to be who they are. So I want you to go into this cave, and I want you to meet one orphan, the orphan that's most appropriate for you to meet first. And I want you to listen to them and tell them you're sorry that they have been alone for so long, and that you're going to help them and love them, and they'll never be alone again. And then once you've gotten that message through to them, whether you can touch them or not, I want you to have your angel, if that's appropriate for your little one, to come and wrap their arms around them. and let them know they're going to be safe with the angels till you return. And then I want you to go and have your higher self wrap her arms or his arms around you and tell you how much you are loved and cared for. You see, you're going to be doing this in a circle. You're going to offer your orphan what they need, and your higher self's going to offer what you need. You're doing it as a circle. So I want you to go and meet your orphan and introduce yourself and tell them they'll never be alone again. This is how you're going to begin your orphan work. It's all about self-love, people.